Hey everybody, listen, I am so glad to be back with you. Another month, a new theme. We are talking about being brave, and I'm so excited to have a conversation with Lisa Russell, who is going to tell us a little bit about her story of bravery or being brave. But just for you to know a little bit about her, she is a maritime attorney. She is an avid water baby. Anything having to do with sun, sea, she's there, right? And Lisa, before I get started to engage you in conversation, I found this quote that I thought was perfect for our conversation. And this is it. You can't swim for new horizons until you have found the courage to lose sight of the shore.
Yes.
Here's what do you think about that?
Here's the new adventures. I'm ready for it. That has actually been my my planner. I'm one of the old school people who keep a physical planner. And it's usually one that has inspirational quotes, scriptures and so on. And the theme for this week is say yes to new adventures.
Wow.
So that's perfect for me. It's really perfect for me because it's I find myself in a season yet again of the Lord prodding me into the new. And while I can be spontaneous and I do like new things, or I can be fun loving, part of me is very much still a planner, and I like to know, how am I going to get there? How am I going to get to the fun? How long I'm going to be at the fun, kind of thing. So yeah, that quote is great. You can't experience new horizons until you leave the shore.
Interestingly, you said that you are a planner. Mm-hmm. But when we had a discussion before what we're doing here today, you told me that the bravest thing that you did it without a plan.
Yes.
Talk to me about
that. So I want to feel like I'm a little bit of an oxymoron, like my personality. Just the way that I live is a little bit of an oxymoron. People look at me, and to some extent I do crave routine, and people look at me and think, oh, stability, she's great, she's reliable, she's whatever. But then there's a part of me that's a little bit rebellious, a little bit fun seeking, a little bit adventurous, a little bit spontaneous. I would say generally I like to have a plan and be able to follow it. And so it's more that when things are not within my control to plan, that I get a little bit anxious unless I really trust a person. So yes, the thing that happened that I suppose is brave, some people might think it's irresponsible, was essentially that I left a full-time job where I was getting a good salary, a decent salary, and I was at a place where people aspired to be. I got this job right out of law school, and I decided to leave. I resigned 3.5 years in, mainly because I was starting to feel unfulfilled. And I just realized if I don't do something different, 5, 10 years, 15 years will pass and I will still feel unfulfilled. So my options were to suck it up and not complain, or to do something different. And the something different involved resigning. I know without a plan. But yes, thank for parents and people who can speak wisdom into your life.
So Lisa, you touched on it a little bit in terms of what led you to leave the job. Can you expand more? What was your deep motivation for doing this thing? Why was it so critical for you to make this brave move, without any kind of plan? What was so urgent?
So in hindsight, I want to say it's probably the beginning of my real search towards purpose or understanding why I'm here in the world. I maybe didn't call it that at the time because I didn't really know that that's what it was. But while I was in law school, I do remember having this vision in my mind of, kind of, all right, if I sit here and I do all this reading, I do my assignments, I pass my exams, I do all these things, one day I'm going to be walking up the steps into my big office in my suit, and I'm going to look powerful and I'm going to be great. And it so happened that that's what I used to do a lot. I was in court almost every day, so I wore a suit generally to work. And one day I was walking up the steps of the building, and the doors are of course glass. So I'm seeing my reflection. I'm in my suit, I have my briefcase, and I'm walking up. And it hits me that I have achieved this vision that was in my head, this thing that kind of kept me going. And it didn't feel like what I expected it to feel like. And the decision to leave was not so much that there was something wrong with the place or wrong with the people that I worked with, just that I felt like there had to be more to life than what I was doing. And I felt like I was missing out on other things outside of the office. And I just knew I couldn't stay there. It was like, I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay there. And so that was the beginning of, maybe it was the precursor to my purpose journey. And it has also helped me to take risks, or, to not be as anxious about trying new things since then. When bills become due and you don't have the salary that you used to have, one of the things that I learned, which is a good and a bad thing in a way, but I'm going to say it's a good thing because I just wasn't aware of it. Without that salary, it made me more conscious of what I spent money on and how unnecessarily I spent money. So it made me more frugal. And it certainly made me be like, yeah, well, Lord, this is due tomorrow. So I don't know, be great to show up. And he always did. He always did. And it did build my faith, because at that time I was also pursuing a personal relationship with the Lord and growing a little bit deeper in my relationship with God. I was making a lot of different changes in friendships and just activities that I was involved in. So the two worked hand in hand for me.
Did you think it accomplished what it was supposed to do, this risk that you took?
So I will say it was the beginning of it. Because again, sort of as a planner or somebody who likes to have things figured out, I don't like to repeat things unnecessarily. I don't like to repeat tests. I don't want to have to do something over again. I don't want to have to revisit it. But that is a lot of what your relationship with the Lord is. It's kind of like, let's do this again, or remember this again, and let me show you again how this is done, or let me do it in a new way. So I used to do an art class while I was at the firm in the evenings, but of course it became a little bit difficult to continue that. I mean, you should be in a really relaxed space when you're doing art. Okay? The stress of the day and the art class in the evening didn't quite work out. After I left that full-time job, I was now able to do an art class in the middle of the day because I'm not going to an office. And every time the instructor told me, I was actually doing charcoal, he told me to rub out a line, it would initially frustrate me. But I realized that God was doing something in me as well, in terms of erase it, refine it. Those two things happening at the same time really did build my faith. It showed me different sides of God. It built my trust. And it allowed me to be open to newer things, as opposed to being one track in my thinking.
Can you tell me the main things that you've taken away from making that bold, brave move?
Main thing, trust in God. As I've gotten older, as I've had different experiences, I realized that many situations, if I did not trust my instincts, things didn't work out the way I thought, or I could have avoided something else, because I really think and believe that we are created with this internal knowing. And so for me, that's a big thing. It can be even small. It can be like physical. If you're interacting with somebody, you feel uneasy, you don't feel at peace, you can't quite put your finger on it. There might be something, there's something that your body is trying to tell you. So don't ignore those things. The second thing, be open to the new. At least be willing to try. Once you've tried it, if you don't like it, then it's not for you. So there's nothing wrong with experimenting with something that you can learn from. I'm not saying experiment with drugs or anything like that. I'm just I'm saying experiment with those things that can be wholesome and beneficial, not because you've always done something a certain way means it has to be done that way. There are newer ways to do it. What else? That's it. Trust your gut / your instincts. Be open to the new. And as cliche as it sounds, I'm going to say enjoy the journey, and that's something I still kind of struggle with. It's something that I have to remind myself. It's not the beginning, it's not the end, it's not this thing that's created, it's who you become along the way, it's the experiences you have along the way. And I know I've heard it from people before, and I thought, yeah, they don't know what I'm talking about. Or, you hear it and you think, yeah, that's great. You sound like you're in a settled place. In the middle of it, some days are hard. Some days you just don't know what you're thinking, what to think. Some days you wonder if you have lost your mind.
Yeah.
And some days you feel so sure that it will work out, even if you don't have a plan. So it's really important to understand that the journey ebbs and flows as well.
Yeah, so be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. And at the end of the day, be proud of the move that you've made, because again, like the quote earlier, if we don't leave the shore, we don't know what else is out there. This is going to be my last question for you, and that question is, what advice would you give to somebody who is either facing fears or limiting beliefs when it comes to taking a risk that could potentially change their life for the better?
Okay. So one of the things that I've tried to do and found useful, shorten the time frame that I have to do it. Like if I were to die in 3 months or 6 months, depending on the thing, or a year, would I regret it in a year, or would I have taken the chance knowing that the year is going to pass? Some things are easier than others, obviously, but if it's something that you've always wanted to try, if it's something that you've had on a vision board of some sort, if it's something that you've listed as a dream, if it's something that you have a desire for but have never even actually shared it with anybody else, if you were to die in 3 months' time, and that's the only amount of time that you had, would you have taken that risk?
That's such a great question, and a great perspective to have, because deep down inside of us, we want to live a life where we feel fulfilled and that we've accomplished what we need to accomplish. And sometimes time can feel like a restrictor, but then time can also be the thing that gives us freedom, depending on our perspective, right? And so thank you so much for sharing that piece of advice. I think it is a great way to shift, your frame of mind, really, and put yourself into a place of taking action. And listen, sometimes it has to be messy action, right? Just get started, just do it. Like
sometimes the clarity comes in the movement. It's almost as if the thing was waiting on you to take one step, to bring the people, to bring the resources, to bring the opportunity to your doorstep. And actually being in COVID or experiencing COVID was one of the things that really reminded me of what's important. I mean, I kind of keep it in the back of my mind, but it highlighted, because there's so many people who didn't get the opportunity to live out their lives, or they've experienced a lot of loss. And it really reminded me of trying to make sure I keep a focus on what is important.
Yeah. Amazing conversation. Thank you so much for sitting with me and sharing about your brave, bold move. It's all about taking risks and living life boldly, and making sure that you live life in a way that you feel that, yes, I've done it, I've lived, I've loved, I've conquered. And my wish is for everyone watching this to be encouraged by Lisa's story and be brave, take a risk, be bold, take a not the kind of risk that would not be life-giving, but take a risk that would make your life even better. Yeah. So thanks, Lisa, and thank you all for watching.
Thanks for having me.